if you want to channel with your own guides, or you love to listen to other people channeling their guides over on the internet, over on social media, this podcast is for you. Today, Rob and I are going to go into all the do's and don'ts, the ins and outs of channeling, of connecting with guides, what's going on. And we're going to do it from obviously the place of the matrix. This series is all about the organic matrix and the false matrix and understanding the difference. So again, it's all about discernment, and that's what we want to connect with you today on and talk through it. So, first of all, let's go through what Rob and I are talking about in terms of using channeling as an option for connecting with guides. Now, then, first of all, Rob and I have just been having this conversation. We just said if we want to channel, we just mean we're connecting. We're just connecting through and asking the guides a certain question or questions, and they're chatting to us back. And for us, the way we feel that we do it is via telepathy rather than channeling through. We'll go into that a bit later. But what we want to talk about first is the true channeling when people talk about the fact that they allow a guide to come through them, to channel through them. So a guide takes over their body, their voice, the voice acts different, their eyes might roll up, and it just feels very much like the dramatics, doesn't it, Rob?
It does. I'm afraid I'm a little skeptical about it,
Yeah, yeah,
and without putting anybody down who is doing this,
yeah, yeah,
because perhaps they know something I don't.
exactly.
You can never know it all.
Who are we to
But
say what's right or wrong?
way back, maybe 100 years, it'd be quite common for people to go and visit a medium, and the medium would occasionally be possessed by the spirit of whoever you hope to hear from. And it's a bit like that for me.
Mm.
Is this happening? Has a guide or other being actually possessed this person who is purporting to channel? And is the mad speech pattern and the facial tick or whatever they're using to bring this guide through, or however this guide is materializing within them,
Mm.
actually happening, or is this a performance? And the
Mm.
more I listen to this kind of thing, the more I'm convinced that this is an act of some sort to engage me. But if I listen to, say, the 10 minutes of the channel, and I put up with the strange voice and the weird
Mhm.
face, I realize after that I've actually had no message of any use. I've had generic, it'll all be lovely, we're here, we're looking after you, everything's fine. Be conscious, be aware, act in your own, any kind of platitude I can trot out
Mm.
is the
Mm.
only message I get from this kind of channeling. So I do wonder. And, to those who do it, far be it from me to decry it. But from my own perspective, my own discernment, and that's key, I don't find it useful, and I am not convinced it's genuine. What about
Mm.
you, Julie? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, so I always, if I'm watching something, I'll always make sure I take a step back and watch as the neutral observer. Talked about this a lot. So I haven't got my ego involved at that moment in time. I'm as much as I can in just observing view to check what's happening because, like everybody, I will go and watch a YouTube channel and see what's happening. But if you see when somebody is just literally saying, everything's going to be all right, as Rob said, just sit back, everything's going to be all right, we're going to be on this timeline. Does that actually feel right? Does that discern right that we are just supposed to sit in our armchairs watching the world go by, complaining about it, and just saying, well, somebody, that psychic said it was going to be okay? That doesn't feel right to me. And if you understand Rob and I's channel is called Shifting Realities, and that's because when we connect with our guides, all of it is about how the world is now. It's showing us how the world is now, and that we're in a cycle, very much like Atlantis was a cycle. an epoch. The Lemuria was a cycle, and they fell at the end. And this time, what they're saying, what we're getting, is the good news that we can step up and allow ourselves to win, allow the good to win, if you want to call it that. And there's more to it, good and bad. There's more to it than that, than just being of love and light. Always, always, it's not just about love and light. I need to make that clear now. But it's about what the guide will say is, Julie, you need to do something. Rob, you need to do something about this, whatever that might be, whatever you feel you can do. So our guides, and when you look at a lot of other people, they're talking about how you shift your reality. This is for yourself, this is for your own life, and this is for the life of humanity. So we're raising consciousness allows us to change the 3D reality in our humanness. So if you think of connecting with a benevolent guide, what benevolent guide then would say, stand in your power, you are your supreme superhumanness, and then would say, hang on a minute, let me channel through you, let me come through you and channel through you. And I think it's because we hold guides in a different kind of like a superiority. And in actual fact, the guides are just like us. And most of the time, we are the guides ourselves. We are our multidimensional selves. So the benevolent guides have usually come to us because they are part of either a soul family or they're us in a different reality. And they know more than us. Let's say they've already got the high consciousness. They've already ascended in some ways at different levels. So yeah, that's what makes me kind of think, discern. Why would somebody, if we're constantly being told to be stand in your own power and do the work, and then somebody suddenly another guide will say, "Let me channel through you." So that's where I want to come from and say, just discern when you're looking. And then the other thing, Rob, isn't it, is that when you see somebody channeling, say the like royal family, for instance, celebrities, anybody that's famous, why? Just somebody tell me out there, why would they want to channel somebody famous? Why are we so interested? So, to me, in my point of view, this is where, as well, the matrix comes into play because we are so conditioned, we are so programmed in to look on the outside, look for danger, look for things that put us in fear, look for things that take us away from what's going on internally. So if you look at the benevolent guides, they're telling us to look, or our higher self. It's always about looking internally and how we can raise our consciousness. Well, looking at somebody else's lifestyle, can you ask yourself, how is that raising your consciousness when you're sitting in your armchair, sitting in your chair, watching somebody talk about, somebody famous, for instance?
Hmm.
They're not talking, are they, Rob, about, I'm just going to tune into Ethel down the road because that might be quite
No,
a nice thing to do.
no, 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 no. Why would you do that when you've got Princess Diana,
Yes,
who appears to be a most regular channeling
absolutely. Yeah, quite
personality?
quite
And I
popular.
appreciate that, when you cease to be a 3D person, there is no
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
So clearly, Princess Diana has no time concerns because if she did, she'd be an extremely busy woman
yes,
coming through
yes,
with vacuous messages
absolutely.
that mean nothing, give us nothing, help us not at all.
Yeah.
So this is, yeah, you could do this if you want to.
Yeah, if you want to, yeah,
Anyone can, but why
yeah,
on earth would you waste your time doing this
yeah,
when there
yeah,
is so much usefulness and benefit to be found discerning and working with your guides as opposed
mm,
to following guides and following flights of fantasy
mm, mm,
in the name of a spiritual quest? I
mm,
understand how easy it is for that to happen. I really
mm,
do. And there's so much of it out there. I guess it's really simple for people to tap into this huge network of just pointless information or
mm.
non-information.
But it's very hard to discern whether that's
Yeah, that's
organic,
it.
whether that is actually in consciousness, the pure consciousness, or whether it's actually the matrix, whether you're just plugging into a section of the matrix that says, "Hey guides, hey, hey everybody, come and see what this person's doing right now." again, they do it because it's like watching soap operas, isn't it? Is that as humans, we love to see everybody else's life. I said to Rob 20 years ago, I would have watched soap operas because I kept thinking, I even said to myself, oh, this is better than my life. Right now,
Yeah,
no longer the case. I'm too busy with, looking into the guides, working, with my clients and working out how to raise consciousness. Too busy for soap operas that are taking you away from all that. Some things I watch because it's lovely to watch the dynamics between people. But yeah, other than that, why on earth would these people, if think about it again, if somebody stepped into your door, into your doorway, into your house and said, I'm just going to have a look round and see what's going on in your life, would you like it? So can you imagine the poor celebrities, good or bad, whether, do you think they honestly are allowing that to happen? And this is another thing that me and Rob explicitly say and tell people, tell our clients when they're connecting, when we're helping them connect with guides, is it must be if you're wanting to help somebody heal, even that you have to have permission. Otherwise, there'll be so much protection, and particularly with famous people, I can vouch that some celebrities and the royal family will have their own protection. So, what will happen is you might think you're tuning in and you're just going to get what you think you're getting. The Matrix is very clever at that,
mm,
very clever, just like putting something on a television that you're watching, just like the algorithm in YouTube and the various social media that gives you all that you're looking for at that moment. Some of that is really, really good. And some of that is just the, in the darkness and the bad side of it, if you want to call it that. So
yeah,
you're just going to get exactly what you're looking for, and so is all the audience. The audience is looking for the same thing as you as a channeler, and so you're just all going to be in that same matrix. But check, is that same matrix false?
yeah,
What do you think,
indeed.
Rob?
And yeah, if you're not channeling Princess Diana or celebrity XYZ of your choice, then you're channeling generally a Pleiadian or an Arcturian,
Hmm.
as
Hmm.
if they're the
Yes.
only other races out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is you are multidimensional.
Hmm.
They are multidimensional. There are beyond millions of
Yeah.
species and races
Mm-hmm.
who come to us. It's not just the two. So I guess we're all caught a little in a cycle of this is what's out there. So we believe we need to connect with Pleiadians or perhaps a Lyran or a Arcturian, but
Hmm.
this really limited range of extraterrestrial beings, as we call them.
Absolutely. Mm.
And that's, as for me, it's as much a mistake as channeling celebrities.
Yes.
You're only
Yes.
channeling a celebrity because perhaps you followed them when they were alive and now they died under
Mm.
interesting circumstances. So you think you have some right
Hmm.
to carry on preying
Mm.
on their energy on the other side. And it is for me parasitic.
Yes. And
Again,
me.
because leave them alone.
Mm.
Really,
Mm.
get your own
Absolutely.
life sorted, find your own set of guides, and do your own work. Don't live off theirs.
Mm.
It's a weird
Yeah.
vicarious existence, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, I will say at this point, it's as if we're giving you all the doom and gloom, isn't it, Rob? But
Yeah.
when you work with guides that are all benevolent, and even sometimes those malevolent that are
Mm-hmm.
just part of our learning, part of us, we have been many thousands and millions of different, if you think of infinite, there isn't a number attached to that. And we will have been in the darkness. Certainly, me and Rob will know we have, because then we're seeing things, we might have to remove attachments, remove entities, all this sort of thing. But when you do it with like, oh, bring it on, it's a good fun, then you're not in fear. And
Yeah.
there are many levels. I can actually vouch at the moment. I've not been into some of the darker levels. That probably is hopefully the guides are protecting me from going into the deepest levels. But there will be that time to come.
Mm.
But it's all okay. That's part of it. It's part of the helping, without light, without darkness, there's no light. And there's vice versa, really. What chicken and egg, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that you've got to embrace it all. And so, once again, we're not just looking at, oh, we only want to work in light, even though it's the light and the love frequency that overrides everything. So that's what we are saying. But in order to override everything, you've got to look, you've got to sort of, jump into that frying pan of the darkness, or jump into the fire of darkness, if you want to call it that, in order to understand it and bring it back up. Because anyone who has blocks, who has had events and things, traumas happen to them, that is part of owning and embracing the darkness as much as, it will feel bad, it will feel worse, feel traumatic, but as much as the embracing of it will help you to alchemize it and bring it in a different way, bring, so change all the energy round with that.
Yeah.
But also, it's the other thing to say that at this point is, you can, when you're watching something, you can, and you do it from a certain light, from a certain discernment, you can see when somebody's basically using their ego. So the dramatics come with somebody who hasn't done the work.
Mm.
And not to say I have done all my work myself, so I'll never need to do any more work. I think it's always happening to do the work, to embrace the good and the bad, and to release block. I'll still have blocks all the time, and still open those up to, different realms and to different levels of myself. But you'll see when somebody does an interpretation with, when they're going with a guide, or when they're getting some information. So again, when somebody claims to be, I don't know, Isis, or claims to be somebody famous as well, in some cases, that could be the case. I've heard of children being, the voice, and being, in past lives, as we want to call it, other famous people. That could well be because a child hasn't had the information that is it that we have at them, that we've had it all along, in our lifetime. So that might well be, but most of the time, if you're saying, you're ISIS, or you're this celebrity or that celebrity, and being, something in a different past, just check that as well, because it could just be the interpretation. Because yes, we can tap in to that consciousness. We can definitely tap in. So we can, most of us might have been in Egypt at some time. We can tap in and be that consciousness, but just actually check, what you're claiming with that, or what anybody else is claiming. Because again,
Yeah.
that's okay if you're telling people how to help themselves and how to stand in their power. That's what it's all about with that. Do you agree,
Yeah.
Rob, with that?
I do. And if you're putting in the effort and you go back over Shifting Realities, this series and the last series, and you understand about getting into your heart center, connecting to your
Mm,
truth, discernment comes
mm,
very easily.
yes,
And if you
yes.
allow that, and you allow the right guides to come in, and you communicate correctly with your guides, and you start to recognize the darker side of things and understand that from a neutral perspective, that cannot hurt you. But you can see it and isolate it and understand it, because it's easy for us to look at something as black and white, good and evil. And we say, okay, we're good and that's evil.
Mm,
But if you look into the false matrix and the malevolent aspects of the false matrix, it's not coming from a place of evil. It's coming from a different perception
yes,
of reality that does not chime with mine.
mm, mm,
So I can deal with it by stepping back from it, looking at it and challenging it.
mm,
And your guides will always, always help you with that.
definitely.
Yeah. So if you're in that space and you're doing clean, good work with your guides, and occasionally you'll get it wrong, because we do get it wrong, but your discernment levels will raise so much with your vibrational level, because they're hand in hand, that the minute you see someone start to go on about Celebrity Z or whatever, you'll instantly go, yeah, no, you're all right, thank you, and you'll change channel
Yeah,
and do your own work, because
yeah, that's
this has
fine.
no use for you at this level. It might have use for you if you're vibrating at a lower level and you are looking for something that makes you think at a different level and to pull you up a little. But you still got to do the work to get there.
Yes.
So you can't just sit watching endless videos of people channeling whatever and assume you're getting some kind of secondhand spiritual knowledge from it. You're not. it might interest you and make you go along that route, but it's not doing anything for you. It's actually just
Mm.
wasting your time.
Mm. It's the same as predictions, isn't it, Rob?
Oh
We've
yeah.
been talking many times about
Oh yeah.
people,
Yeah.
psychics predicting the future when we
Absolutely.
know.
Yeah,
Mm,
I mean, I have clients who come to me, and I started this journey off pretty much as a tarot reader and a Reiki
mm,
healer. And I haven't dropped either of those, but
mhm.
how I use them is an entirely different thing. So the first conversation I have with a client when they come through is that I'm going to use cards, and I will show you the cards, and we'll talk about the cards. But I will interpret the cards the way that my energy wants to read them right now, because my higher self is connected to your higher self, and we're having a conversation about your energy. So I'm not going to tell you you're going to marry a tall, dark, handsome stranger, or you're going to have a fabulous business opportunity, but I'm going to tell you what your energy wants for you and what it wants you to do to get to that goal. And what you do with it then is up to you. So I can't predict because there are too many predictions to be made. I can take a flower out of this vase here and give you that, but there's still 90 flowers left in the vase. So I'm just picking a prediction that's useful right now. And tomorrow I might pick another one. So you do have to think about that very carefully before you seek it, and
Mm.
accept that it is quite possible to do predictive work. But is it really of much use? Honestly, in the end, how many people I've been to readers in my past and
Mm.
had my
Yeah,
psychic future
and me.
foretold,
Mm.
and I can't honestly say I can remember any of it because I don't think it ever really sat with me or influenced me in any particular way. So I do wonder. Um, so yeah, I don't know how if you, I'm sure, do this kind of
Yeah,
work
I've
for you,
just
Julie, and
if I've been into psychics in the past, it's been
yeah,
good, but I can't say things have come true as
mm,
in that sense. And obviously now knowing when we connect with the guides, a lot of it, this is about the act of helping you understand you can predict your own future. You can set things in motions, your thoughts, emotions, and your actions can change your future. And what I think happens sometimes, I have had people recently saying, a psychic told me this was going to happen and it came true. And you believe a psychic, and it's fantastic. That's changed your life. And I think what happens with that is it's because you believe in it. You have your whole knowing. I know because a psychic told me. I know this is going to happen. Well, that's okay. That's absolutely fine. Just notice the thing that because somebody else told me, that's not you standing in your power doing it. But what you'll be doing is watching out. You will be taking the right actions because you'll be watching out for your tall, dark, handsome man. What you might do is end up missing a short, fat, bald man that is the better
yeah,
option for you or whatever. But let's say you'll be watching out for that person who's your person, just as one prediction. The same with predictions in the collective. Once again, the predictions can be anything you want it to be. You can be bad or good, but that's not helping us go into the right timeline. I'm saying go into being on the right timeline because we've been the ones to change the timeline and help humanity and the whole of humanity wanting to be on the timeline. That's why we will sometimes say when we talk about, let's call it the new earth for want of a better word. I cannot think of a better word for it, so we'll call it new earth. It's simply a different, not newer frequency, a high frequency, an earth that when I look out, I'll see what I want to see on the inside. And for me, that's people being more peaceful with each other, people understanding each other, no judgment made, and all the rest of it that comes with that, and a better life for all of us. That's what I see. But whilst there are people still judging how I see it on the outside, I must be making a judgment within me. So that's where I need to look at the judgment within me and not keep looking on what's going on in the outside world and judging that element. I'm saying that because we talked about this in another episode about there's another matrix going on with the spiritual community, to just keep calling it the spiritual community. And I think there's an overlay of the matrix there because there's a strong fight, there's a strong resonance of even people, we're even doing it now. We're talking about this spiritual community and saying, be careful of it. And we're just doing it from a place of this is just how we see it as an observer. If by all means, if you want to carry on and look at that, all of that, look at people doing predictions, that's fine. That we're not telling you what to do. But what we're doing is just saying, how is that? Just watch yourself. How is that helping you? And then on that note, what I want to say is it's definitely every one of you, every one of us is psychic in ourselves. Every one of us has intuition. Every one of us can connect with our other versions of ourselves and with what I would call soul family. So if you want to connect with a Palladian, it would only be because that Palladian is part of your soul family. You will have been some connection in the past. Again, with this, you've got somebody else, a psychic told me I have Palladian in me, or I have been Palladian. Great. What are you going to do with that information? Anything. And it's more for us. And also, one of the other things is people going off then to go, what's the trait of a Palladian? What's the trait of an Actuarian? And we said earlier, didn't we, Rob, about, well, that's like just saying, what's the trait of a human? Are all humans in this one bubble of they're all this one thing? Well, that's the same with any guides, knowing that the guides are they're the same as us in that way. They are the same. You're going to get good and bad in everyone. The darkness is in and it, is in the light. It's in everything. And really, so when I work with clients and say, this is the priority. Yes, it might be that it's Palladium, but it might be something else completely different. And we're connecting in with another version of yourself that I can't even explain what species they are. And they're just such a higher realm species that they don't have a name sometimes, and they don't speak in our language. Believe it or not, they don't speak English, apparently. You'd be mortified at that. And so again, you've got to really interpret everything, and that might take, it can take weeks or months to start the interpretation. So when we connect somebody in with their family or who they are and start integrating the multidimensional self, so start integrating a particular version of themselves. And the reason we would do that is so that they can either help themselves, it's part of their own healing journey, and then they can help others in whatever it is they've, in their experience. And that's the part of helping humanity, and that's the reason we connect in with the guides, is the messages they can give us and the way we can tap in to ourselves that are an alchemist, ourselves that are, I don't know, I'm now interested in things like DNA and quantum physics, so I can tap in. There'll be some version of myself somewhere that is that, some kind of quantum physicist or something in the past, and might be quantum physicist more of a, as we would call it, a galactic guide more than a human, because the galactics are so much more in advance of what humans actually know, and that's why it's sometimes difficult to interpret, and that's why they can use telepathy, because that's more of an advanced communication structure, but that's based on humans doing the work, isn't it, Rob?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're all telepathic. We just don't bother to use it.
Absolutely, yeah. And
So,
telekinesis. Yeah.
the more you work with your guides, the more you start to understand
Yes.
telepathy.
Yes. Yes.
And I think at first you might question it and think, did I really hear that? Am I reading that
Absolutely.
right? And then
Mm,
you become sure of it after a while.
mm.
And it becomes easier to have a conversation with a guide as opposed to just getting random messages or flash messages
Yes.
at you that you
Yes.
have to then work at. You can then go back and say, okay, I heard that, but what did that mean? Am I right? And keep working it up so you've actually got something of value. So yeah, we all need to work on every aspect of ourselves to raise our vibration.
Mm.
And I know it sounds daft, doesn't it? Saying raise our vibration. It just really
What does it
means
mean?
getting yourself onto a higher
Mm,
level of being, which is your right. It's there to take. So get your
mm,
vibration up and get talking to your guides, get communicating with this incredible multi-universe
mm.
out there, because there is so much more than we will ever know.
Mm,
But if you don't
mm,
start now, you'll never know anything. So
absolutely.
I don't see an end to the journey, but I don't really want it to end.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. Imagine if you knew
Fascinating.
it all.
It's
That'd be quite
fascinating.
strange, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Perhaps that's another lifetime. Well, I'll know it all.
Maybe so, maybe
Yeah,
so. But we've got that in our versions of ourselves because
we
another
do.
lifetime we know it
We do.
all in some
We
aspects
do.
of ourselves.
Yeah.
But I just noticed, I just heard something as an observer with Rob. Rob kept saying, so even though we use telepathy,
Yeah.
I still work with my clients to enable them to use all the different, what we would call clairsenses.
Yeah.
So if somebody's clairvoyant or somebody's clairaudient, so Rob, we would class him as more clairaudient, and you could hear him
Yeah.
say, "If you hear this and listen to this and what they're saying," whereas you'll hear me going, or you'll see me going, when I see this, I see things going on. And so everything will be
Yeah.
dark, and I'll see lights flashing, I'll see circles, I'll see geometry, I'll see different things, see the world in a different way. And my goodness, I've got to then interpret it and
Yeah.
interpret that. And then the telepathy comes in where, because you're practicing, where you're seeing it, you're hearing it, and it's the all-knowing, you're sensing it. And that's when you go, I know this to be true. So even though Rob, his main thing will be saying, I hear it, and mine, you'll always
Yeah.
see me going, I see this, I see that, I tell you that. Um, because we do have the things that we've practiced in the past. But honestly, you practice everything and you'll get the all-knowing,
Yeah.
all-sensing. Even the guides with telepathy can project themselves like a hologram to us. That's how you'll see, how I will see, like, there's a guide next to you, left or right. They're just projecting themselves. It's very easy to do that because we're using the organic matrix in that way. We're using a matrix to be able to structure that and just project everything out. Very, very, it's very good to do that. So when you do work with guides that are, benevolent and sometimes malevolent, to understand them, it's fast. It absolutely, I cannot tell you, it blows my mind to ask, to be asking the question when you don't know the meaning of life, or you don't know your purpose, or you don't know what you're doing, or you're getting doubts. Believe me, I've had doubts, even all the time, get doubts. So I connect with the guides, ask them what's going on, and clear myself out because the doubts are coming from me, not my guides. But when I ask them the right questions, again, one of the things we learn is how to ask the questions correctly. In a way, in a generic way, it's not, oh, what's my purpose? Oh, what's the meaning of life? It's more, like, okay, purpose. Am I doing this right? Am I doing that right? Can you show me this? And that's when, and you see what I mean? Can you show me this?
Show me.
So I will see the things, or can you give me that sense of knowing it's right? And that's all the telepathy that comes down. That's how, as you're clearing, you are clearing yourself as you're human. That's how you can clear so much connection to get the purest, as much as you can, connection with who you are, really who you are. You're all knowing. And of course, literally whatever you want to call it, God consciousness, God, Jesus, Yeshua, however you want to call it, remembering that there's the good and bad in that. I had an experience once that, where Jesus came in front of me. I had to just sit back and observe to say, this doesn't quite feel right. And when I used all my tools to work through all my protocol to discern, is this right? It wasn't. And his face just mottled and went through, like literally slipped into almost like a gloop in the matrix, and it wasn't right. So that's how you can discern. It becomes easier, not
Yeah.
forgetting that I still might make mistakes. We're all human and we're going to make those mistakes. And it's okay. You will get around that and work out what feels right and what feels not right in order. And you can see by the sense of when things start working for you that everything's going okay. But honestly, after all us telling you all the doom and gloom, we also want to say, just go with it. If you want to connect with your guides, go with it. Rob and I can help you. We work individually with clients and work on individual programs. But Rob and I definitely we are working towards setting up a membership program
Yeah.
to help you just month by month practice, keep practicing what you're doing. The more you focus on what you want, the more you focus on that kind of reality, the more you focus on where you want the guides to help you, because you're just as much in power of the guides, even though we say let go and let the guides come through it, not through you, come down to work with you. All of that, it's part of you commanding and demanding what you want to help you change your life and then change others. And what more would you want from that to change the life for better, to raise consciousness and help yourself and help humanity? And we can do that, with the help of the guides, just with the help, with the guide. And that's why they're called guides, they just guide us.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's a final note. Is there anything else you want to add, Rob? Or I
No, I
think
think
we've
that's enough
had
for
enough.
today. We need to
Yes.
save something up for the next one.
Yes, we
So
do. Yes, we could go on forever with this one. And go on
yeah,
forever. It's one that, very dear to our hearts. We love working with the guides, but we know we have to be discerning. So that's all our message is at the end of the day. Okay. Right. On that
okay.
note, bye for now. We will see you next week.
We will.